I'm going to cover what are the risks for getting a new piercing. Coming up next on New to Piercing, episode number 18. For those that are new to the channel, welcome to the Body Piercing and Tattooing channel. I hope you're enjoying the videos. Hope you're finding them helpful, useful, and everything that in between. But you might not know who I am, and if you've seen many of my videos, you just want to hear me say this again. My name is DaVo. I'm a professional body piercer and have been since 1994. I own and operate the Axiom Body Piercing studio located right here in Des Moines, Iowa, inside Skin Kitchen Tattoo. So what I'm going to talk about is what are the common risks when you're getting a new piercing that may be there. Starting with the first one, infection. There is always a risk of infection if you do not properly take care of a piercing or you don't have a strong immune system, or both, or like a combination of both. The situation is this. It is an open wound during the whole healing process. If you don't take precautions to make sure that you are not contaminating that piercing on a regular basis, you can get an infection, which may require medical treatment. Worst case scenario is that you don't get it treated and it gets into your bloodstream, turns systematic, and that could be a life-threatening situation. The next one is scarring. Yes, there's kind of a misconception and always has been about piercing where I don't like it, I can just take it out and everything just goes back to normal, right? The problem with that is anytime you're doing a piercing, you are permanently changing your body. The more and the longer that piercing is in there, the more it heals, the more it's likely to have visible scarring. Some piercings are more prone to this than others. Like, for example, lip piercings can generally look like they're open decades after they're pierced. Other ones, not so much so. But you do need to take into account that there is a possibility of scarring. There is also the issue of if there's a problem with the piercing, additional scarring producing itself, including if the piercing rejects or migrates, or you get a bump or hypertrophic scarring or something else goes on. So it's always a risk. A lot of times, basically good aftercare will solve this problem, and getting piercings that you know are going to heal and piercings where your anatomy works with that piercing. That's one of the reasons why it's important to find somebody who's experienced at what they're doing to pierce you. Next one would be allergic reactions. We try to minimize this by only stocking biocompatible materials, things like titanium, implant-grade titanium. That's been certified that it is, in fact, what it is. It's an alloy, but if you're allergic to metals or materials, a lot of times, especially with that initial first piercing, you may not have a clue that you're allergic to nickel until you actually get pierced. And it will present itself in much the same way an infection will, so it's kind of hard to diagnose that that's exactly what's going on. It's important that you find somebody that handles quality jewelry and takes extra time to make sure they're certified that the manufacturer is actually selling them jewelry that's biocompatible. Rejection. Rejection is always a risk. What rejection is where your body says, no, it's easier for me to push this jewelry completely out instead of trying to grow this tunnel thing that you want. This is common in piercings that are more shallow and not inside the body or don't have two sides, or piercings like surface-to-surface piercings, which is an extremely high risk. Dermals have a high risk of rejection over a period of 10 or 15 years, sometimes more like 6 or 7. It is always a risk that for one reason or another, if your anatomy is not correct or your body simply just doesn't want to tolerate the piercing, that it will reject and push the jewelry out and you won't have a piercing anymore. The next one is tearing and ripping. If you're not careful, jewelry can get caught on clothing, bedding, towels, something or other, and then rip out of the body. This will usually cause scarring and require that you remove the jewelry. The next one would be contracting a virus infection or from a foreign pathogen. Worst case scenario would be hepatitis C or HIV or something that's a deadly virus that can greatly affect your health in the long run. We limit this by, as a piercer, practicing cross-contamination prevention, also using only sterile equipment and properly sterilizing it between each usage, and all those things that go into making sure that we do the piercing as safely as possible. It is always a slight risk whenever you're getting pierced or you're puncturing the skin that you could contract one of these. Your best advice I can give you is find somebody that's experienced with a good reputation and understands the risk and takes precautions to make sure those things don't happen. Excessive bleeding. This could be a case because you have a pre-existing health issue or you're on a medication that doesn't allow your blood to clot. Some piercings, if they're done really close to blood vessels, can do this. Venoms, or like a tongue piercing that's done more off to the side and closer to those big blood vessels you see on the underside of your tongue, can be more prone to this. But excessive bleeding can require medical treatment. It can require that you abandon the piercing. It is something you want to consider, and some piercings are more at risk for this than others. Talk to your piercer about it. Also, if you're on blood thinners or you have a pre-existing, like you're anemic, medical condition, you want to discuss it with your doctor before you get pierced, maybe backing down a little bit on the dosage, or if it's a situation where it's just balancing things out, it may not be a problem. But talking to your medical professional is your best bet if you think you're going to be at risk of that. Next one, lightheadedness or passing out. This is caused by anxiety usually. Everybody thinks it's from the pain of the piercing, somehow makes you do this. It is from just the anxiety, nervousness, and the fear of the unknown that we all have. It's a survival instinct. Basically what happens is your body starts draining all the blood from your brain into your muscles and etc. You start to feel kind of dizzy and lightheaded, and it can lead to you passing out. If you are prone to this, always mention it to your piercer before you get done so they can kind of take a little bit extra precautions to make sure that you are in a safe position, that you're not going to fall and hurt yourself. In most cases, it's not really a life-threatening situation or anything that we're really going to be angry about or frustrated or anything else. We're used to it. We know how to keep you in a safe, flat position or what have you to make sure that you don't hurt yourself. Just vocalize when you're feeling lightheaded and let us know so we can get you into position where we don't have to worry about you falling and banging your head on something. The next one is one of those ones that I've seen greatly reduce over the years, and that's job loss or the inability to participate in school activities, sports, organized activities that have a dress code. Some piercings, if they're visible, or even those that aren't visible, can, depending on what the job is, depending on what's going on with the sport, they may not allow you to have that jewelry in while you're active in doing it. It might be a situation where you're told to either take it out or go home. So it's always best to do your research beforehand. I know somebody else on the team may have it and nobody cares. The reality is that they may have just gotten away with it. And once there's two of you, you both are going to end up getting told to take it out. Next one, social interaction and prejudice. This is another thing I've seen greatly reduce over the years. There was a time if you had a tattoo or a piercing that was visible, especially if you were portrayed in the media in any way, shape, or form, it was usually a drug dealer, drug addict, or criminal. There's a lot of people out there that still kind of believe these things, or that you're a Satanist because you have a septum piercing. It's silly. We all know this, and slowly these piercings are becoming more and more acceptable as time goes on. But there's always going to be somebody that has something to say that's going to treat you differently than you would be treated if you didn't have that piercing. So it's something you want to consider, especially on extremely visible piercings or piercings of large sizes, or what people consider more extreme piercings. For some reason, anything that's pierced on the nose these days, or even an eyebrow, people are kind of like, yeah, it's just a piercing. They're kind of almost at the same level as like an earlobe piercing. But for one reason or another, if you have lower lip piercings, you're a weirdo. I don't understand that. And maybe over time, as more and more people get that piercing, it may decrease. But it's something you want to consider and be prepared for. And generally, most people, I'll tell you, they're just curious. The rest of them, they're just jerks, and you don't need them in your life anyway. Just send them to the forbidden zone. Now, there are piercings that you just have additional risks. Oral piercings would be one of those. Enamel erosion, gum erosion, and softening of the bones inside your mouth. There is a possibility that piercings, regardless of how well they're done, how well you take care of them, can damage tissue, bone, etc. around them. You always want to take that into consideration because in most cases, once that starts, there's not really a way to reverse it, without spending a buttload of money at the dentist. The other problem is that a lot of people will be like, I don't want to give up my oral piercing even though my gums are receding. Sorry, there's no magic jewelry, there's no special cream or anything else that's going to stop that or reduce that happening further. The only option you're going to have is abandoning those piercings. The next one would be swelling. Swelling is a natural reaction your body has to a piercing. It'll increase in size. Some piercings swell a lot. Some swell very little to a point where it's not even really noticeable. Jewelry has to be sized to adjust that. Oftentimes we ask that you downsize at a later time to something shorter to alleviate other problems, but like migration, etc., and getting caught on things. But initially, swelling can be a factor, especially with things like tongue piercings, where it swells up to almost twice its normal size. It can impact eating, it can impact your diet, it can impact talking, everything else. And precautions are going to need to be taken to help reduce that swelling and cut back on the likelihood of obsessive swelling. And it might involve it swelling beyond the length of the jewelry and having to go in and getting another piece of jewelry put in to allow for that additional swelling. Swelling is just a factor when it comes to piercings, some more so than others, but it's something you want to consider beforehand. The last one is jewelry impacting or engulfing. This is a situation where swelling or for one reason or another, your body finds that it can grow tissue around the jewelry. This is common in mouth piercings where suddenly the lip or the inside of the lip will start growing tissue over that flat disc and totally engulfing it in your body, where the only way it can be removed is basically to be cut out. This is something that if you start noticing it happening, you do need to contact your piercer and possibly have a jewelry change or abandon the piercing. It is a possibility, and it's one of those things we don't know until we do the piercing, how your body's going to react to it. What would you say some of the risks are to getting a piercing? Leave a comment. Till next time, here's hoping a piercing skill of ease and without a single issue. And if you're in the Des Moines, Iowa area, I'd love to see if your piercing needs in the future. Have a good day, everybody. Take care, and we'll see you in the next video.